another thing to say. I've been kidnapped myself. My brother was shot, and I was shot full holes, and he died in my arms. Well,
wait. When did this happen?
16 hours in the ocean in Hawaii. What?
Eddie, when did this happen?
Oh, back in '85.
How old were you?
I was about 28. We got taken about 12 miles out off.
Okay.
About 8 miles off.
You can't swear, Eddie. So you got to be careful with that. So I hope they blip that. You can't swear. Be careful.
Excuse me.
So I hope they got that back at the studio. Okay, it's all right, Eddie. Now, so you and your brother, you were in Hawaii. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a little shop, and he was a landscaper, and he got in a tussle with his girlfriend he was going to marry. She was having an affair with this guy on a boat, this captain, and so they broke up, and this captain came and kidnapped me and him, took us out in a boat about 8 miles off South of Kona off Captain Cook Point, and then gut shot him, and shot me through the chest, blew my left arm in half, and I jumped off the boat, and it got me through the buttocks, my testicles, my legs, and then I towed him for like 3 hours till he died. And then I continued to swim about 10 miles that night because I just swim sort of northeast to get back to Kona. But I got back and we caught him, and the FBI caught him. And but the captain that drove the boat, supplied the gun, hires the guys to kidnap us, got misdemeanor assault. And so I was awarded the highest amount in history in 1985 for misdemeanor assault, $250,000, which I've never seen even a penny of, not even a roll of pennies. But Eddie,
tell me about swimming off the coast of Hawaii with bullet holes. I would have thought that was like total hammerhead shark area.
Yeah, they left us in the shark lane because the point goes off south of town, and so there's a ridge that goes underwater. It goes about 2 miles deep. The water, 1.5 miles, 2 miles deep. But there's a ridge, a deep water ridge, and it wells up the currents there. And, so the sharks feed there.
How did they not get you?
But you basically keep moving. You never stop, because if you stop, then you make a pool of blood, and they just swim through it until their nose hits something soft, they eat it. They're sort of like the garbage disposal of the ocean.
Yeah. But with all of that blood from 4 bullet holes and your brother taking a gut shot, and again, I'm sorry about that, I'm grateful, but it's somehow shocked that the sharks didn't come for you. Yeah,
well, I kept moving. I swam like about 10 miles that night. I swam only about a mile till he died. He died after about 3 hours, about 9:30 that night.
Oh.
But, I had to keep going. I swam long, because the current's like heading south, got away from the islands. On the last island, got to keep heading north. And so,
yeah.
Don't want to go go the wrong way, so I just swam my backside off the whole night, and got till... and the dolphins, after my brother died, the dolphins swam around me all night till about 5:45 that morning, when I was about 4 miles out by about 5:45 that morning. I had a watch on and stuff, a waterproof watch.
Well, Eddie, I appreciate you telling me that. I'm sorry it happened, and that's just dang interesting, and thanks for sharing that. I'll be thinking about that on Coast to Coast AM for a while.
Hi, Ian and Lauren. It's an honor. I think my phone is tapped, and I'll tell you why. I have a company name that I came up with, but you can bleep this from the conversation before it airs if you have to, can't you?
We don't even want you to take that chance that you're going to mention something we have to bleep. Because
okay, well, I'll just, if you, okay, well, I'm connected with a TV show here that has to do with things like UFOs and government stuff, and also, too, right after I was connected with the show, I went to this, I guess you can call it an anti-war rally. President Bush was here in the state, and it was a fundraiser for Senator John Kyle. And so about 600 Phoenicians showed up there. And anyway, so I was telling my friend this he was on the cell phone, I was on a landline. I started telling him about this, and he says to me, if you start going to these things, the wrong elements may start taking your license plate, and they'll kill you. So anyway, long story short, the phone goes dead, and I'm thinking my friend forgets to charge his battery. So anyway, I hear this male voice on the line, and it's not him, and the voice says over and over again, Colding, 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 like 8 times, and I'm thinking, holding? No, that's not it. Coding? No. So anyway, I hear this audio snow, I guess you could call it, or, white noise.
White noise.
And then I hear my friend in the background very faintly going, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? His voice comes up again, and he's, sounds like a normal, normal, back to normal, whatever. So anyway, so I'm doing this internet research, and I come up with this company called Colding Technologies based in Mitchellville, Maryland. And what they do is they build a software that implements these various technologies, including what's called, I understand, signal analysis technology. And I also did a little more sleuthing, and their website states that they have high security contract work with the U.S. Army. So I'm wondering if some kind of automatic phone wiretapping kicked in because they heard the words kill and Bush and everything in the same conversation.
Were you saying anything about kill? And
No,
Bush?
no. But my friend said to me, be careful if you start attending these anti-war rallies, because the wrong element can get your, they'll take your license plate and they'll kill you.
I totally get that. Lauren, what would you say to Kay?
Let's talk a little bit about phone taps.
Okay.
And some of this. I mean, one of the rules about phone taps is that if your phone is being tapped professionally, you'll never know it by listening on the call. You won't hear clicks, you won't hear hisses, you won't hear buzzing. If it's done properly, it's done through the telephone network, it's done through a digital diversion of the data that represents the call. There's no way you're ever going to know by anything you're ever going to hear. So we can start from that. It is certainly true that in the post-9/11 environment, and because of changes like the ones we're talking about with the FBI report, there's a lot more surveillance going on. One of the things that's really important about these national security letters is that they are often used as the first step toward moving toward greater surveillance, like actually requesting to actually tap lines and to monitor conversations and things of that sort, rather than just get the data about who's calling who or who's sending email to who. That has greatly expanded. And there is a lot of technology that can now be brought to bear in focused cases. It doesn't exist to the extent that it can monitor the entire telephone network for everybody that says the word kill. If you did that, well, there aren't enough disk drives even at Google to collect that much information, probably. Well, maybe there are.
But we can't tell.
But the point is that there has been a real expansion in surveillance, and we now discover that it has been very badly kept track of, and in many cases has been done in ways that were very slipshod and just plain wrong and apparently just plain illegal. Another thing is that the technology has advanced to the point, and I can talk about this a little more if you want, where we have learned from court cases that there have been situations where the FBI has used ordinary cell phones as room bugs. This is not a science fiction technology. This is not a conspiracy technology. This is real.
Now, what do you mean by that? By a room bug, meaning they leave a regular cell phone on and up, or how do they? What do you mean?
The situation is such that most modern cell phones, because they're just software-driven devices, the software can be changed in ways that would allow those cell phones to be used as a bug and to either collect the information that's the audio from the room, even though the phone might look like it's turned off, for example. It's still going to be using battery power. It's still going to be doing all the things a phone has to do. But you wouldn't know that it was either saving calls within its memory and then transmitting them out later or transmitting them out in real time. And this was revealed in a court case involving, I guess it was an organized crime case, actually, that this is now a technique that's being employed. And in fact, I recently, because I became interested in this, and I said, well, if the FBI can do this in legitimate cases, or at least what are supposed to be legitimate cases, it should be possible for people to do this illicitly also. What one organization can do, someone else can do in terms of reprogramming phone firmware and making changes like that. And so I started discussing that on the network. How would you tell? How could you tell if your phone was being used that way? It's unlikely that your phone or my phone or most people's phones would ever turn into bugs, but it could be done. And that had so many questions and so many requests for additional information that I put a video on YouTube just a couple of weeks ago, actually, that actually demonstrates ways to try to determine. And it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek because most people don't really have to worry about this.
Right.
But it's something that if people are interested in, if they want to run some simple tests on their cell phone that are just observational in nature, they can do that. Maybe they'll feel more comfortable and feel a little more secure that they're not having those kinds of problems.
How do they keyword search that at YouTube?
Yeah, the easiest way to do it through YouTube would just go to youtube.com and just search for cell phone bug.
Cell phone bug.
And my video will come up right to the very top.
Let's start with Gary, east of the Rockies on Coast to Coast Live. Hey, Gary.
Hi, Ian.
Gary, where are you going to take us?
Well, let's start with having the United Nations outlaw all human alterations, since robots can have robots and humans can have babies.
Okay. Now, when you say Gary, you don't mean Sam, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Because you sound like this guy that keeps calling. Do you know that? Have people told you that yet?
Well, I wrote a book, and the book explains a lot more than we can explain on the radio in a short period of time.
No, you're missing my point. There's this guy who's like a habitual caller, and he calls and he uses different names all the time.
I use the same name all the time.
That's okay. So that's not you, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. And you've never put your hand over your heart and swear to me you've never used the name Sam when you've called in.
No.
Gary. Okay, good. So you wrote a book, Gary?
Yes.
Okay, and what's it about?
It's a scientific book which shows that Star Trek is closer to the truth than Einstein.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You know, that doesn't surprise me terribly. Things that, Star Trek modeled are becoming more and more common, right? I mean, there's short of being able to beam up somewhere, we don't have that. We've got a million of I'd say a million, but I mean, we got 10 probably other things that have been modeled off of that show that we already have, right?
Well, we don't need a transporter. We can use more conventional means of getting around.
Yeah, but I mean, the way they did hypodermic needles, right? The way they did injections, we have that now, right?
Oh, you mean
right, the things that they when you say Star Trek, I think about the gadgets they used and the things that they said that in the future we would have, and more commonly, those are coming true.
Well, they're headed in the direction of biochemistry. I believe that biochemistry is the future of medicine. If you read my book, Warp Speed A+, I go into this in detail.
Okay. Well,
it's called Warp Speed A+, Newtonian Relativistic Mechanics, published by Author House. And my name is Gary Mike Colley Swano, the author.
Wonderful. Well, you should be very proud.
I had a friend who saw shadow people, and strangely enough, I ended up seeing them too later on. But what was interesting was he was really afraid of the dark. He had nightlights all over his house. Pretty strange. And he would tell me, I'd go over to stay at his house sometimes, and he would tell me about these shadow people. He would see them, and they would, he would see like millions of these things. Wouldn't see them literally, but he would hear them. He did see them, but he would hear these voices, millions of these voices whispering to him.
Millions?
Yeah, like millions of voices, and he would just get like this sensory overload from these voices. And he would say some of them would be stronger trying to reach out to him, but he could never understand what they wanted. And, these shadow people are strange. I see them too.
I've never heard the experience described as millions.
Yeah, he would say there is, like they'd be in the room with them, but they'd also be talking. There would be voices, and he'd hear them. You can really hear them, like what they're making out, but it's just like somebody people whispering.
Why? What would be different about that than, say, the classic experience of the schizophrenic, who hears voices, who hears impulses that says, "Do this, don't do that"?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
How would one define that differently?
I would find it differently because he's pretty much healthy. He doesn't. I mean, he holds a regular job. He's a very talented carpenter. And this stuff just never really made sense to me. Why, the shadow people, and then, I've never had any issues with seeing anything like this. I mean, I'd be in his room and I'd see these things dart across his wall, I didn't believe him at first, and then I'd be looking in the corner of the room. He's like, look over there. And, there's a nightlight in the room, and I see some bounce across the room. And 2 years later, I started seeing these things. These shadows. They'll come into a room, and they just stand there. And you can tell them to leave, and they won't leave. Then they just stand in a corner, and or they'll come over to your bed, and it's just weird.
So you saw them, but he heard them.
No, he sees them too. I started seeing them after I departed with him as friends. Like 2 years ago.
Right.
I started seeing these things. I don't.
Do they say anything to you?
No, they don't. I can see them. They come into a room, and if I tell them to leave, they'll come closer, and I'll have to go grab sage, and I sage them, and they just hate the sage, whatever these things are. It just drives them away. I have noticed a difference between I think I've seen demons and spirits, and these things are shadow people. They have this gray mist to them, and something like a demon. It looks like somebody just literally cut a hole in the air, and it's like pitch black. And I just get this feeling like it gets cold, and it's very, I just get this eerie feeling from these things.
Well, we'll leave it there for that moment, but interesting story. And the sage thing is new. I've never heard of that idea of getting. I know that here in Kansas, people who don't want to use chemicals for their pets to fight the tick problem that exists with all of this Kansas tall grass and everything. Some people recommend sage for getting rid of ticks and bugs, but I've never heard that it also got rid of shadow people. So I'll have to file that one for future reference. We've got Nick, who's been very patient, waiting to get on Coast to Coast AM, and we'll get to everybody in order. Nick, thanks for hanging on. Where are you going to take us on Open Lines?
I believe I'm half alien, half human hybrid, and as a result of that, I believe I don't know if you remember I don't know if you saw the Roswell documentary a couple of years ago or whatever they had on I think the Discovery Channel, but they showed how doctors and other people around the aliens that they dissected were exposed to some kind of extraterrestrial virus or some kind of just their biological chemistry, and as a result, they were hospitalized, and some of them were placed in a mental institution because they lost their minds as a result of being exposed to that virus. And what I think is going on with these cattle mutilations and everything, I think these extraterrestrials, along with the government, are trying to create half alien, half human bacteria and releasing it, or cows rather, releasing it into the population. Because really, I believe a lot of us are gonna be like these extraterrestrials. We're gonna appear like them in the future, not necessarily with big black eyes, small slit for a nose, and small slit for a mouth. But what I was exposed to in 1992, as a result of that, when I worked at a base that produced military components for a company in the States, anyway, I started to lose sleep deprivation, rapid weight loss, all these symptoms and then I started communicating telepathically with the TV and other people, and it was really bizarre. And
you were communicating You were communicating telepathically with the TV? What does that mean?
I'll explain that. What I mean is an actor and actress would just before they were to say a line, I knew ahead of time what they were about to say on TV.
Could that just be because you're a bright guy and these TV shows are incredibly predictable? I mean, just maybe it might be that you have a higher than average intelligence and you could see that line coming a mile away.
Yeah, but you want to know something, Ian? As a result of this, I exposed some people to this virus because my doctor was telling me it's all in my head. And my brother, I didn't get along too well, I exposed him to it. And he also started to communicate telepathic with the TV, and I had rapid weight loss, sleep deprivation, everything else associated with it. And also somebody else from work as well had similar symptoms.
How are you communicating this alien virus? How are they getting it?
I'd rather not say. I'd rather
well,
not say.
No, that's not fair. You can't hold out on us like that. What is it? How do you give them the alien virus? Don't we have to know this?
It'll scare a lot of people, but it's non-sexually. Let's put it that way.
Well, okay. I'm glad it's non-sexual with your brother. Thank you. But I mean, what is it that you got to tell me? How do you communicate this? It's not going to scare people. We want to know, how do we protect ourselves against an alien virus? That's not fair that you hold this important health information and not pass it along.
It can be done like through saliva or blood and stuff like that, drop of blood or whatever.
So for if you give a blood transfusion, if you donated blood, you would be donating this alien virus?
I'd probably be passing it on to somebody else, yeah. That's why I don't give blood anymore.
You don't give blood anymore because you don't want them to get that. And there's no screening for such a thing.
No, it's no, there isn't. No, unfortunately, no, there isn't.
Okay. Well,
and the government's covering it up, big time. They're saying there's no such thing. It's all in your head, blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, I'm hearing more and more cases of people being exposed to this, and they're just not telling the full truth.
Wait. How did your brother get your saliva? That's what I want to know, though. How did that happen?
I'd rather, well, geez, it's a long story, but
I got a minute.
There's like a glass of orange juice sitting on the kitchen table, and just I timed when he came home from work, and I just placed a drop in a couple of drops in his orange juice just to see what would happen.
Wait. You intentionally infected your brother with the alien virus?
Yes, because he wanted me to die.
You doped his orange juice?
Because he wanted me to die of AIDS. He was calling me some very bad names in '91, him and his brother, and as a control experiment, I exposed my younger brother and I left my older brother alone as a control experiment. But first, before I tested on my brother, I tested on my budgie, my pet budgie.
Okay.
And it came with hot chills, cold chills, fever, and it dropped dead 2 days later. So obviously, I couldn't handle the potency of it.
So you infected your budgie with the alien virus?
Yeah, and I started shaking violently. After about 24 hours later, I started shaking, and then had a high fever, and I just dropped dead.
Okay, and then so you kind of, let's just cut to the chase. You spit in your brother's orange juice. Yeah, because I just wanted to see if this was transmissible, and sure enough, he came down with similar symptoms. About a month later, first of all, he came out with deep bronchial infection, like type of cold, and then all of a sudden, about a month and a half, 2 months later, he came to the room saying to my mom, I'm losing weight. And I said, serves you right. You shouldn't have told me to die of AIDS. And then he just walked away and he said, I'm going to get even with you. And other stuff like I'd be reading a book, Slaughterhouse-Five, and the character in the book says, you don't believe in God? Well, how about if I cut off your eyelids and force you to stare at the sun? Then you'll believe in God. And that very night, when I read that in the book, that very night, my brother had the same dream about that part in the book. Okay.
So that's not.
So do you ever feel bad about infecting your brother with an alien virus?
I do, very much so.
Okay.
It's awful. I ask God to forgive me every day about it.
Hi, Ian. How are you?
You're doing great. You're on a first-time caller line, so you are a first-time caller.
I have a few minutes, or I think I can convince most of your listeners that the moon landing, the part about the men walking on the moon, was all shot on Earth. Now, let me explain.
Okay.
The astronauts, number one, did not seek fame, did not do interviews. They became recluses after.
That's not really true. That's a false premise.
The act of being the first human being on a foreign sphere would be the biggest heroic thing in our lifetime, and they did not seek the fame they deserved. They almost were ashamed to show their faces.
They were not ashamed to show their face. That's a false premise. They were not ashamed to show their face at all. That's just I want to give you a try, but if you're going to lead with that, come on, dude. They weren't ashamed. They were everywhere.
No, they
were everywhere.
They were paraded around for about a week or two or three. And that
not a week or two? How old are you, Brian?
I am 65.
Okay, so you're old enough to have remembered it when it happened. Wasn't like a week and then like, hey, where'd they go? Where'd the astronauts go? They were around
Let me continue here.
Okay, all right.
Now,
you got to do better than that. You're off to a bad start.
Can you let me speak? I saw the film of the little module landing on the moon, and the next film was dark and shadowy, much more dim. Everything was in the shadows and grainy as they're walking off the capsule. And I remember when they blasted off the surface to leave the moon, they noticed that their jettison had sprayed their flag out of its moorings and all over the place. Do you think our mission to the moon would have planted a flag just without thinking about their jets blowing it out of its moorings when they left? No.
Okay, well, hang on.
On Earth, that was done in the desert. They were in suits filled with helium to make them buoyant. They had big, huge floodlights on the desert floor. They hid the background, the horizon. As much as they tried to simulate the moon, it was not the area where the actual thing landed. All
right, well, let's hang on for a second. Let's go. You said you're point by point. So let's go back to the other thing. First of all, if you actually get a spacesuit and fill it up with helium, tell me how that goes. I mean, your presumption that they were inside, they had
these big square backpacks on. It could have been that apparatus right there on the Area 51 or Idaho or someplace. Now, hear me out. Richard Nixon was president.
Okay.
Richard Nixon needed a distraction from the Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King assassinations that he was responsible for.
Okay.
And he literally had to find astronauts willing to keep a secret. They do everything but walk on the moon. Did you know the temperature on the moon is 250 degrees?
Okay. So, look, I see where you're throwing a lot of speculation in there, and these are questions, and that's interesting. Here's where that sort of argument falls down, is that you have questions. You really don't have any kind of empirical proof. You just have that kind of guy at the end of the bar speculation that says, do you think... So I challenge you. I mean, if you can do something where you could go out and you could recreate, get one of those suits, fill it with helium, and show me how you could bounce up and down around Earth in a suit like that, just filled with helium, you got my attention, man. I really do. I believe that. So, but the idea, this idea of, do you think that they would knock down? Accidents happen. Things don't go wrong. They'd never been on the moon before. So to measure it against perfection, I think that's never a good thing. We didn't know how it was going to go. Let's go back to the film problem. I don't know if you've been noticing this lately, but there's a very interesting story. And this has been part of this CNN piece that they're running. The original videotapes of the moon landing were bought by an intern 30 some odd years ago for $277. They were throwing them out because nobody really knew what they had. They were recently auctioned at Sotheby's, or going to be auctioned at Sotheby's. The guy's going to make millions on these. Because what they did, and this is what speaks to your very interesting point about the difference in the clarity of the footage, is that they didn't really have a very sophisticated system of transferring images. So this is in 1969, where there were still these big giant cameras and lots of lights were needed to get the lighting just right. And they were shooting a TV screen with another video camera. And that's why generations of these images get progressively worse. What's fascinating about these videotapes that are going up for auction at Sotheby's is that it's the original clarity, not a copy of a copy of a copy. So that and maybe then when you go and you look at it, you might find, oh, how about that? It proves my point. And you'll see something in the clarity of this new videotape. But just because the images were bad, it doesn't mean that was part of some conspiracy. And yeah, Nixon needed a win, but I would never have thought of him as the guy behind the assassination of Martin Luther King, or for that matter, JFK. But I mean, RFK. JFK was an interesting story.
Well, the story I'm going to tell you that happened to me and my family happened in 1969. We were You know, like every American family, we go to the beach or we go to the park to enjoy our daytime period before the fireworks. Around 10:30 in the morning, we're living in Tampa, Florida. We're going across the Rickenbacker Causeway in Tampa, and the traffic was really piled up. The traffic was probably traveling around 5-10 miles an hour, and all of a sudden the traffic stopped. The people on the beach and everybody in their cars started to get out of their cars and to look to the south. And, of course, everybody did it. We did it. When we went to look to the south you can see the Sunshine Skyway Bridge and a highway bridge. On the other side of that bridge, there was a craft that was the size of the bridge that goes from landmass to landmass coming towards us. This object went over our head, probably took around 5 to 8 minutes to come over our heads, and everybody was in awe. Now, I remember a sound that it made, and I can actually mimic the sound. It was wah, 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 wah. And it was so loud that I could scream to you next to me and you would not be able to hear me. Now, what I don't understand, which really blows my mind, is that all the years I was born in 1957, and all the years that I've been around since this happened, I have never heard anybody talk about it. And I spoke to on the show once before about it, and Linda Mohyman, I think that's her name, she said that it might have been something similar to from the Men in Black, that when they did the flash, it would make everybody forget. Well, why my whole family? There was me and my mother, my father, my 2 sisters, and 2 friends in a station wagon, and we all remembered.
Yeah. Did I hear you right? Linda Moorhyman? I think you meant Linda Moulton Howe.
Moulton Howe. Sorry, that's
okay. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I thought Moorhyman, I would have remembered her. But yeah, so that's interesting. So, yeah, I mean, so you brought this around other people. Nobody remembers. I tell you what, sometimes it happens on Coast to Coast when somebody jumps on an open line, just like this, that somebody else will remember, Angel. So maybe, and go ahead, give the date one more time.
It was on the 4th of July, around 10:30 in the morning, in the Rickenbacker Causeway in Tampa, Florida.
Okay, and, so someone's going to file that away on another night. We're probably only 10 minutes left here, but on another night, keep on listening. Maybe somebody will go, hey, I was listening the other night, and you'll hear it. We'll go east of the Rockies. Tim is in New Brunswick, Maine, on Coast to Coast AM. Hey, Tim.
Ian, how are you? I believe I may have met an angel.
Do you need me to go get that one, Tim, or are you can you get that one? The phone in the background. Can you get that?
It only rang once, so I don't need to get it, I guess.
Okay, all right, let me know.
Anyway, I believe I've met an angel.
And her name was?
Unfortunately, it was a gentleman. Oop, I'm going to have to get that.
Are you at work?
Yeah, hang on one sec.
Sure, we'll get to listen. Shh, everybody get to listen. Okay, that's Tim in New Brunswick, Maine. And he's at work right now. Is he a cop? Is he working in the fire department? Right. Is he a doctor? Is he a paramedic? Right. Computer repair? IT?
Yeah, I'm good.
Body retrieval?
No.
No?
Yeah.
Vampire?
Right back.
Taxi driver?
Still there?
Yeah, what do you do?
Oh, you're really patient. Actually, allow me to say I'm not at liberty to say.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, very quickly, I was on. This took place several years ago. It was about 3:00 in the morning, and I was on Store Drive in Boston. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's right down in the city. There's no breakdown lane. There's certainly no sympathy. It was 3 a.m. in the morning. There's no traffic. I was alone, and I got a flat tire. So I pull over, I'm in one of the lanes, I get the car jacked up, and I discover that I don't have the right size tire iron.
Get out. So you can't even get your lug nuts off.
No, I'm stuck. And there's nobody out. It's not a great neighborhood. I am in big trouble. Now, back then, nobody had any cell phones.
What year are we talking about?
Oh, I'm going to guess we're probably talking early to mid-'80s.
Okay. Well,
so they had cell phones, but they were the size of a toaster oven.
Field walkie-talkies in the Army. Right.
Yeah, really, basically field walkie-talkies. Along comes this guy in one of those old VW Bugs that still had the trunk in the front. Okay? This crazy guy with the wild hair and the big beard, the whole 9 yards. He gets out and he says, "What's going on?" First of all, he stopped in Boston, which already makes him supernatural, okay?
Right.
He comes out and he says, "What's going on?" I tell him the story. He says, "Well, let's see what I've got." And he leads me over to the VW Bug. Now, I'm not adding anything to this story, okay? He opens the trunk up, and not only is the trunk full of tire irons, it's all that's in there. And if I said there was 150 of these things in there, I would not be exaggerating. It was chock full of nothing but flipping tire irons. So he rummages around in this thing, pulls out this 4-way, he hands it to me, and he says, "See if this works." And of course it did. And he drove off. You know, he didn't get any thanks or anything. He just drove off. He said, "Keep it," and drove away.
Well, he's got a few other ones too. You know, he wasn't going to miss that one terribly. Right.
Now, the good book tells us that we ought to be nice to strangers because we might entertain angels without knowing it. And I'm going to tell you what, I get into the kingdom and I meet this guy, I will not be the least bit surprised.
Oh, that is a fascinating story, really. So no explanation on why this guy was driving around with a trunk full of tire irons. He never said to you.
He was driving around waiting to help me.
Well, he didn't say, I happen to work for a tire iron distributor.
No.
Or he didn't say I'm
a tire iron salesman or something.
Right, there's nothing like that. He just showed up, handed you the tire iron, and drove off.
Here you go, and I'll see you later.
I totally love that. Well, let me know. Yeah, totally. I love that. Maybe we could get more of maybe somebody else has been visited by a tire iron angel, and we'll find out later on in the show. And thank you, Tim. We'll let you get back to work. Louisa is in Alabama on Coast to Coast AM. Louisa?
Hello. Thank you for letting me on.
Well, good. Thanks for hanging on.
I have a few little things I'd like to mention if I have time.
Well, let's put your best ones up front, okay?
Okay. I have been an inventor since I was really young. I've invented dozens of things, and one of the things I have is for paraplegics, and it will either help to restore the ability to walk or at least increase the circulation, help the person to live longer. I also invented several ways to generate electricity, and these will make gasoline obsolete, and people will have to spend very little money to run vehicles. When this comes out, it's going to be very, very cheap, and OPEC will just go out of business.
Well, terrific. What's taking you so long?
Okay, this will be available to the public as soon as I have the money to pay the patent office, which wants to extort money from me before they will let me have a patent. And what we need is a new law by the patent office, which should say that applicants who do not have the money to pay the fee up front should be able to get the patent right away, and then after that, give the inventor a chance to make money on his invention, and when he has his millions of dollars come in, we should pay the patent office according to how much money we make. And if I make millions of billions of dollars, I'd be happy to give the patent office millions of dollars instead of the $500 which they want. And this, in the long run, would generate a great increase of money for the patent office, and it would help all those inventors to have a chance who are penniless, and their inventions will never be known. You know, we're going to take it to the grave if we don't have the money to pay the patent fee.
All right. Louisa, let me give you a thought on that. There are places online that will make small business loans that will look for people like yourself who have an idea and they are looking to invest. And the payback methods are nominal. I mean, in some cases it might be, if you were looking to borrow $500, who knows, it might be $19 a month or something to pay it back with a very low interest loan. Go online and take a look. And if you don't have the internet at your home, go to a library and just Google that. Low interest loans, investment, kind of great, penny loans, I think they call them. And hopefully someone will be able to give you that money so that you then will turn around and save all of us and then give the money back to the patent office, which is very generous. First-time caller line, John is in Sacramento on Coast to Coast AM. John?
Yes, Ian.
Open lines, buddy. Where are you going to take us?
Well, I have an abduction story for you.
Okay. Of yours?
Yes.
Okay.
First-hand experience. I was approximately 7, I believe, and I remember waking up in this room. It was cold, dark, pretty scary, and there was a bright light right above my head. And as I was getting my bearings and trying to figure out what was going on, one of these aliens made themselves aware. I sensed their presence before I seen them. It was very strange, very strange. And then I've heard your callers talk about before how there's a empathic feeling or something to that effect. And I could read their thoughts and they could read mine. It was very strange. It was quite spooky as a child. And then I kind of fell asleep and dozed off again. And when I came to the next day, I kind of brushed it off as just a dream or whatever. And, I told my parents about it. And, I was in the bath that night, and I was taking my shower, and I was washing myself up. I looked down, and I noticed a faint scar just on my right lower quadrant, abdomen area.
Okay.
And thought nothing of it, Sometime later, approximately, 15 years later, had the horriblest pain. Went to the doctor, told me I had appendicitis. I had to do emergency surgery right then. So in the midst of this surgery, went through, everything came out fine. The doctor came in the recovery room with a small bag, and there was these it was the smallest little thing I've ever seen in my life. And he said, "Where did this come from?" And I said, "Sir, I don't know what that is." And he said, "Well, it's way beyond anything we can even recognize." I said, Well, the doctor said, "Well, we're going to send it to lab research and, all that stuff." And I said, "Okay, whatever." So 2 days later, 2 men come walking in my hospital room wearing nothing but black shades, black hair. They were for some 3-letter agency. God only knows who. And they started asking me questions. Very detailed questions about what I've been doing, who I've been around, blah, 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 blah. And they told me that I was to never speak of this incident again. And they threatened actual bodily harm on me and my family if we repeated this incident.
So what's going to happen to you as a result of this phone call?
I don't care anymore. I think it's time the American public knows what's going on.
All right. Well, that's something we hit all the time on this show, and we'll just add your story onto the list of other people with that testimony. Thank you, John, for taking the time. Very interesting.